today we're going to install the Vortex LED integrated taillight on our 2015 M4 exhaust sportbiketracker.com Suzuki GSX-R600 project bike giveaway. Previously, we've already installed the Vortex fender eliminator bracket. Gives it a good, clean look in the back. Okay, the Suzuki has taillights integrated here into the tail itself, right? Comes with a red lensed tail light. The Vortex LED integrated light is available in smoke as well as clear. And you can see that that is definitely going to look a lot cooler with these clear turn signals as compared to that red lens. Of course, and these are LEDs, right? This has the ability to also integrate the turn signals into the tail light itself as we go through the project. I'd like to note that in the box, okay, there are no instructions. However, I would say that at the end of the day, this is a pretty self-explanatory install. What do we need to do this? We need some common hand tools to be able to access the tail light back here. It's got a 4mm Allen, 5mm Allen, like a 10mm socket, wrench, very, very basic hand tools needed to do that. And then of course, you know, we'll have to make a decision once we get in here with our turn signals if we want to integrate those to work with these amber lights or not. We're going to begin by just simply disassembling the tail of the motorcycle to get ourselves the necessary access. First thing, let's go ahead and pull the rear seat pylon. Next up is going to be the rider seat. We're going to remove that from the motorcycle. Show you how to do that. Pretty basic stuff here. What you want to do is come up here. Okay, you're going to release this tab here first. Okay, work your way up here. There's like some real heavy duty Velcro-like material here, all hard plastic that locks together, and then you've got a push pin there that holds that in. That'll allow you to access the seat bolt. Repeat the process here on the other side. And get the seat bolts out. To do this, we're going to need to pretty much disassemble the rear tail. It's not that big of a project. It's going to be a blend of fasteners and some push pins to get it apart. Once it's apart, we'll be able to get in there and access the necessary wiring, the fasteners, and all that good stuff. Once you get the bolts out of the seat pan, lift up like that. You've got two hooks here in the back that slide underneath some pins here on the subframe. A handful of push pins here. Up and out of the way, the screwdrivers. Get that out. We're going to go underneath the bike here, and there are two push pins on either side. They're going to hold on the colored trim panel. Tail section is essentially made up of three pieces. slide that out like so. There's that integrated tail. You want to be careful with this stuff. You obviously don't want to scratch it up. Street bikes. It's best to just disassemble it and kind of get it right out of the way. That way you set it somewhere safe. Want to kind of keep it out of the line of fire so you don't put it somewhere where you'll step back and walk on it. Okay. There's a push pin up here, locates into a rubber grommet. Here's the other side. Now we've got pretty good access here to that actual tail light itself. And let's see here. The tail light is actually held onto this tail piece. A couple of screws. Here's the connector for the tail light. See if I can find the release for it here. They got this kind of wrapped in foam. Screwdriver in here. See if we can't get this to release. There we go. Okay, and you can see they've got this hooked right to this kind of carbon fiber like centerpiece of that. To get this off, we've got 3 Allens here, and then we have 3 Phillips that actually hold the tail light to it. We'll start by removing the Allens from the actual mounting bracket. Okay, and put this off to the side for a moment, and grab the Phillips. There you go. There is our stock tail light. Set that down right there. And let's begin to fit the Vortex piece. And once we get this on here, we're going to decide what we want to do with turn signals, if we want to do the integration or not. At the end of the day, if you don't want to do the integration, you could simply get away with just plugging it in, right? And then you would have the function of the tail light. If you do want to do the integration, we're going to need to make some wiring changes to the back. But first, what I want to do is I want to kind of get a sense for what is it all going to look like as we get it together in terms of the colors of the lights and so on and so forth. Okay, we've got the bracket is mounted up to our Vortex lens assembly. There's a couple of things that we want to do here now. First thing I want to do is I want to see what it looks like. Go ahead and turn it on. There's our running light right there. Let's have a look at our brake light. Now earlier we talked about the turn signal integration. I mean, at the end of the day, if you didn't want to do it, you don't have to do it, okay? But on this bike, I just want to see what this would look like with the stock lights that we already have in place. So these are the wires for your turn signals right here, okay? Once again, I didn't see any instructions supplied with this, but at the end of the day, it's really not a big deal. We're not launching the space shuttle here, we're working up some turn signals, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of set that in place. This would be the power wire that's gonna supply voltage to the LEDs for the turn signals, okay? The ground is already going to be integrated through the connector here that supplies ground to the tail lights. Now you look at your turn signal harness and you're gonna see right away that it has two wires, okay? And I'm just gonna walk you through some real basic stuff right now. Power and ground. How do you determine which wire is the power wire? It's a fair question. You can look right here and you see the housing for that turn signal bulb, right? You've got a wire that's actually soldered to it. That is going to be the ground side. The power supply goes up through the center. Now, how do we determine which one here? I kind of hook these up, take a peek like that. Okay, so it's going to be the wire here on my left. That is going to be the power supply. I've already got the turn signal on for the left side of the motorcycle. So we can now feed this in, and clearly that is feeding the right side of the bike. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of drape that just out of my way here, because that will go to the other side. So now we know that the blue side, okay, and it flashes amber. So, all right, I can deal with that. That looks pretty cool. Let's go ahead and slide this in now. And if we're gonna wanna have both of these on, we're gonna need to get a little bit creative here. Let's see if I can slide this in. First thing I want to do is see that it's got enough voltage to supply both. I would say yeah, clearly it does. And now we need to decide, how do we want to hook this up? You know, at the end of the day, you want to make good decisions back here. You know, something that is going to hold up and stand the test of time. Okay, so how do we want to hook this up? Let's go ahead and disconnect this. Again, from here. And I want to preserve both. I think they're going to look best and be most visible from the backside if we have both those lenses going at the same time. That's my first goal. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the power of the bike off. And I know that I need to be on this wire right here. And let's see what we can do here. A couple of different ways that we could do this. You know, we could actually open this up, right? Splice into it and have a nice connection here on this side of it. That would be one way to do it. You know, I'd prefer to do it that way, because if I splice it into the actual turn signal side, I'm going to end up with a connection, right, that is permanent to that. So if I ever want to take that side panel off, I'm not going to be able to do that, because that wire is going to be hooked up. I'll actually have to cut that and then reattach it. So I want to try and avoid that. So now what I want to do is, I think I'm going to cut this back and splice into here. Another thing that I feel that we should be doing is, on the old tail light, there was a piece of that, right? That like heavy duty plastic Velcro, to see if we can get that off of here and attach that to our new lens. It'll just make for a really good clean install. I go about a ½ inch up. I'm gonna get some degreaser, wipe that off, and see if I can dislodge this here. Yeah, this looks like it should come off. You can always use a heat gun too if you have one. It'll help preserve the adhesive a little bit, but it looks like this is going to work out okay. Right there. Like so. And what you could do to make sure you really get this lined up perfectly is kind of slide it right on here, briefly. We get a little degreaser, wipe that off. When we come back, we're going to be working on these wires right here, looking to make a good, clean connection. Okay, we're ready to do the wiring right now. What I did is I took the actual wire loom protector. I just slid it with a razor blade. Be careful not to cut the wires or yourself, right? Got that slit back, and we know now that this is the power wire that we need to work on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. I want to cut it in such a way that I've got room to strip it on both ends. And then we're going to go ahead and we're working with our blue wire here for the left side of the bike. Go ahead and give that a little trim as well. We're not going to use that connector. Let's go ahead and grab this. We're going to strip the wires back. On each of the pieces, I've got some really nice shrinkable butt connectors here that they do a fantastic job. So we'll go ahead and use that. And I've got some electrical tape to reassemble that wire loom protector. So let's go ahead and I like to twist the wires together. Go ahead and I need to get a crimper. Crimp down the butt connector. These really work well. They withstand the weather, no problem. All right, this is something that we used quite a bit in the dealers that I worked in. Really good quality piece. So. You want to make sure that you're going to use something that will stand up to the weather. And then what you're able to do is go ahead and put a little heat to it. You don't want to overdo it, right? But you can see that shrinks right around the wire. It's going to give you a good, tight seal. This is pretty much out of the weather, so at the end of the day, you could use, you know, more of a standard type, a non-shrinkable butt connector. The first option that I showed you there, though, I would say is the best. Also, if you wanted to solder this and use shrink tubing, you could do that as well. Either one would work perfectly. As I said earlier, this is a style of repair here with this shrinkable butt connector. Used this for years in the dealership. Phenomenal success. So I have very little reservation with using this technique. Make sure you get a good strong crimp. You can see too that I'm checking everything to make sure that I can't just pull the wires right out. Just as I showed you on the other side. Go ahead and shrink this bad boy down. You can actually see how that pulls it all together very nicely. Goal is always to do a good clean job that's going to hold up, stand the test of time. We're going to need to put a little trim now on this wire loom protector. It's going to be a little longer because we did effectively shorten it up here quite a bit. Let's go ahead and try and get everything tucked in here nicely. Fold this back a little bit here. Take your time and do this right up front, and you'll never have any issues that will need to be addressed down the road. If you just twist the wires together and tape over them, odds are sooner or later corrosion is going to be present. You know, the connection's going to loosen, and you're going to run yourself into some issues that you'd like to try and avoid. The goal should always be, with any of this stuff, do it one time, be done with it. Run the electrical tape on it, and we'll have a good connection here. When we come back, we'll have both sides done, and we'll see what this all looks like before we put the bike back together. Okay, got the tail light in there. We got all the wiring is done for both sides. We're ready to reassemble here. I've begun by just putting the two main screws in here. Right, we're gonna get the wiring connector here plugged in. This side, get it stowed away in there nice and clean. Try and reuse all the factory looms, right? Remember the cable to release the rear seat. You don't want to put this thing back together and forget to do that, because if you do, you will not be able to get your rear seat pylon off the motorcycle, and that would be a pain in the butt. So let's go ahead and begin to slide this stuff here all together, and then we'll be able to check this out and see what we've got here for an end result. I think personally this is going to look pretty sweet. This video would probably serve for most bikes as a pretty good tutorial in terms of installation, you know, wiring in, the integration, that kind of stuff. As I stated earlier, there were no instructions in the package. Right? It is, at the end of the day, a pretty basic thing. So I would encourage most just go ahead and take a quick look at this video. Should really help out quite a bit if you haven't done this kind of stuff before. Go ahead and get this tail put back together here. I'm kind of excited to see what our end result is going to be like. Once again, the tail light, just like that fender eliminator, it's a pretty affordable mod, right? It's affordable. It wouldn't be a bad idea if you're looking to do both on your motorcycle. Do them both at the same time. I mean, there's a lot of overlap in this project right here. And if you did them both at the same exact time, you would save yourself probably half of the time for the project. So if you're doing a fender eliminator on your bike and you're thinking, man, you know, I may consider down the road doing that tail light, just hit them both at the same time. If your budget allows for it, it's going to make your life a whole lot easier if you do them both right up front. Okay, let's make sure we get adequate room here for everything. Okay, got that in there like so. And grab some of these push pins here from the other side. Get these all put in. We can have a look at our tail and see what our end result will look like. Okay, we are all wired up. We are all reassembled. Good, clean job. First thing I want to point out is, you know, now you lose that red lens back here, okay? Get this good, clean look of the smoked lens. Looks real trick, right? Matches nicely with those lenses there for the turnstile. Now let's fire this thing up. Let's take a look first at our brake light function. LEDs pop real nice. And then, let's take a look at these turn signals. I think that looks pretty sweet. That definitely adds a higher level of visibility too. So that was worth the time to wire all that in there. Let's go ahead and test the other side. And we are good to go. This motorcycle is ready to roll. So far on our project bike, we've done our Vortex fender eliminator and then finished cleaning up this tail with that all new Vortex integrated tail light. This is our 2015 M4 exhaust, sportbiketrackgear.com Suzuki GSX-R600 project bike giveaway.